Right. Yeah. Yes. So just very quickly rephrasing your question, which was, converting banks into whatever that may be, restaurants, care homes, you know, bike units, like retail selling bikes and repairing bikes. Your decision needs to be based on demand. It's not based on what you want, what I want, or for that matter, what anyone wants on the planet. But at the same time, balancing it with if the numbers actually stack in whichever category is in demand in the first place.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised getting permission with data driven from demand is about 10x more easier than something that you and me want. I can turn up to the high street, look at this bank, they're leaving the building. Oh, you know what? I want to run this as a restaurant. But there's about a million restaurants on the high street because it's not about what you want, what I want. And then you go and apply for it, it gets rejected.
Yeah. Okay.
Common sense, right? But at the same time, when you start looking at applications, Natasha, you'll be surprised at how many of them get rejected. Just purely common sense rejections. Asking for too many units, cramping too many units in, asking for the wrong kind of usage, and they're not actually looking at the real demand in the region. As long as it's demand driven, they have no reason to refuse.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be sensitive towards amenities. You need to be sensitive towards leaving enough green space. You need to be sensitive towards, making it look nice and green and being able to, like, for someone to be able to live there and enjoy.
Yeah.
Not cramp all of that into one space and then think, oh, why did I get refused? Well, obviously you were going to, because you're not thinking you're going to put humans there.
Sure. Yeah.
Alan knows that. Alan knows that really well.
Yeah. So, no, you're right, Jack. It's got to be thought through. The architectural concept and the built environment has got to fit in with the surroundings. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. And it, like I said, it may sound paradoxical when you start doing numbers. Oh, well, if I do this, then the numbers are not in my favor. Well, the council is not looking at your numbers.
Sure. Yeah.
They don't care about your numbers. Either you make a profit, you make a loss. They don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What they care about is, are you giving me something that the market needs?
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question to some extent. So it's a very gray area, very detailed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. Today's session was actually about this. It was actually about this. Okay. What I was going to cover was, when you look at a deal, how do you work out if it is a deal in the first place? How do you work out without actually wasting too much time?
Yeah.
There's no wasting time. You keep learning when you get rejected. Okay. But at the same time, there's a limit to how much time you invest into a deal before you realize is it actually a deal or not. Okay. And then sometimes you're way past that point of you've invested, let's say 100, 200 hours into it. And now you're looking back thinking, oh, it's like sunk cost fallacy. Okay. I don't know if you know sunk cost fallacy, right? You've invested so much money, so much time into the deal, and now you realize it's not profitable. Now you can't even leave the deal. And then you're in this fallacy of, oh, I will make it profitable. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah.
Do read this. It's phenomenal how many people don't know sunk cost fallacy, right? People will work on something for a year, 2 years, and then now they already know it's not going to work. But they can't leave it because they've invested so much time, and it's now very depressing or really hitting their ego hard that they can't even just now leave it.
Yeah.
Okay. It happens all the time. I know people, they are so deep into their ego with the sunk cost fallacy. They've invested 1 year into a deal. The deal is going to make zero money or probably going to make a loss. They still carry on with it. That's ego connected to sunk cost fallacy. Okay. Don't be that person. Don't bring ego into a deal. Don't bring emotions into a deal. It's just pure logic. I always say this. The numbers need to work in and itself on the deal. don't make the numbers work. Does that make sense? Does that, yeah? It's one thing trying to make numbers work. It's another thing, numbers actually working on the deal.
Yes.
You try and make numbers work into a deal, you will come out losing your shoes.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I promise you this. I have seen people with £120 million portfolio losing their shirt. Okay. Remember, I'm a finance broker. I see this more than anyone else. Okay. Please don't be that person. Have the deal work on its own merits. Okay. And so how do you, now the question is, how do you look at a deal and say, is it actually a deal or not? One deal at a time. I'm going to pick a block deal, and then we'll do a hotel deal, and then we'll do a development deal. Okay. When you look at a block deal, use the spreadsheet given to you. That spreadsheet covers every single aspect of expenses. Okay. And to make sure that you get your expenses right, speak with the people who provide those services, and then add another 10% contingency. When it comes to how much revenue you're going to generate, use AirDNA, use these websites, booking.com, Expedia, Airbnb, check the local prices, minus that by 10%. So revenue minus 10%, expenses plus 10%, and now see if the numbers work in your favor.
Yeah.
Okay. And if at 50% you break even, that's a deal. You take that deal on. So I'll repeat this. You take the spreadsheet, expenses spreadsheet I've shared. You speak with all the service providers. Then you feed the exact numbers. Add 10% more to the expenses. Then you take the revenue, as in you work out the revenue from the portals. Okay. You can use AirDNA to see occupancy rates. But make sure that you're checking all of those prices that you can charge per night, 2 nights, 3 nights, weekly rates, whatever that might be. Work out your revenue numbers to precise point, minus that by 10%. So expenses 10% plus, revenue minus 10%. And if you can achieve 50% occupancy and break even, that's a deal to take on. Exactly the same formula with hotels. Take that spreadsheet, add all the expenses, add another 10% contingency, check the revenue online, what kind of nightly rates you can achieve, minus that by 10%. If at 50% you break even, now you've got a deal. Yeah? Because remember, if at 50% you're breaking even-ish, then getting it to 60% and 70% is not rocket science, something I can show you. Make sure that the location is right. Make sure it is close to a station. Make sure it's close to some sort of attraction. Make sure some sort of, there's traffic coming in. Don't just go into a place that's nowhere in the middle of nowhere. Okay? Yeah? Airports, hospitals, centrals, towns, people, loads of people work in a region, some factory, some new warehouse coming in, Amazon warehouse, Google warehouse, I don't know, 500,000 things, some factory coming there. You got to check the demand. You can easily check the demand by having a kind of a fake validation ad on spare room in the local newspaper shops. There's loads of things you can do. Put an ad on Facebook, to see demand. I remember I put a Facebook ad. I had 500 applications in 2 weeks. I'll repeat this. I had 500 applications for a house from a Facebook ad, not even a paid ad, but a free ad. Okay. All of a sudden, I was overwhelmed, and I realized I can charge more rent. I went from 1,800 to 2,200. Think, if you're getting so many people applying, naturally they're going to pay, right? So you can demand and charge whatever you like. I literally went from 1,800 to 2,200. Okay. In fact, initially it was 1,550, and it went to 1,650, and I took it to 1,800, and now I'm charging 2,200 for the same property. Okay. Does that make it very clear, like how to stack a block and a hotel deal? Like I said, in that spreadsheet, nothing, absolutely nothing is missed. Especially your expenses, okay? Because if you can, imagine just rubbish collection on a medium-sized property, like a 30-bed hotel, we are paying in the region of about £2,000 a year. Just rubbish collection. Be my guest if you miss something like that. That's £2,000 straight off your bottom line profits. Okay. And how many people don't count rubbish? Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Jack, can I just introduce Agnes Jasinsko, who's just joined the call? Just so you know, Agnes,
yes.
I've met her through other networking and suggested she join this morning. So just to let you know.
Thank you, Alan. Hi, Agnes.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Agnes. Again, we are, I think you might have joined slightly late, Agnes. We are covering, when you look at a deal, is it actually a real deal or not? And quickly work out, like 5-10 minutes later, you know if it's a deal or not. And then either you invest your time or not, okay?
Yes.
At the moment, we're looking at blocks and hotel deals. There is a spreadsheet. Alan, by all means, forward it to Agnes so she can see the spreadsheet.
Sure, I'll do that.
Comprehensive.
Yeah,
it's completely comprehensive. There's absolutely nothing missed on that spreadsheet. And once you fill up the numbers, you are not going to get this wrong. Make sure you get numbers not in your mind, like you're not working out numbers in your mind. You're calling people and working numbers out. You're checking stuff online to be able to work your numbers. Revenue numbers come from portals, Airbnb, Expedia, while your expenses numbers will come from suppliers. Call them up. Bed hotel is roughly about £7,000 a year, £8,000 a year. Just a laundry bill. Okay, so stuff like that you can't ignore and you can't miss. Okay. The cost of each room of cleaning costs us about £5. So when a booking comes through, immediately the £5 out of that goes to a cleaning. That's a small room, not even necessarily a bigger room. A bigger room can cost up to £10 to clean. So make sure you know your numbers in your region. This cost can significantly be different if you're in central London, or if you're in Heathrow, or if you're in some really high demand region. Cornwall, for example, the cost can vary quite significantly in different regions. Okay. Now, on to a development deal, right? Which is the tricky one. In fact, I want to cover the BRR deals as well, because some members will do BRR. So I'll cover the BRR first, and then I will cover the development, because it's almost like a baby version of a development deal. Okay. So when you look at a BRR deal, I've had times where loads of people have approached me and said, well, I walked into the property. It's a rundown property. It needs a 3 meter, 6 meter extension. The back or the side, we can do a loft, but how do I work out the cost without necessarily speaking with loads of builders? They're difficult to get hold of. They don't come around easily. I have to make loads of calls. How do I work out the cost, right? If you're doing an extension, right? If you're doing an extension of, let's say, whatever square meter that might be, I would say put in roughly, depending on the region, anywhere between 150 to 200 square foot. Okay. So if let's say your extension is, I don't know, let's say 10 by 10 square foot, that's 100 square foot, then by 200, that's £20,000. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Simple. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're doing the same thing in central London, it can be 500, 1,000 a square foot. Yeah. If you're doing that near Greater London region, you can do it for 200. If you're doing up north, you may get away with 150, but I don't think it's going to cost anything less than 150 these days. Yeah. That's a simple formula. If you're doing a loft, you can, if it's a small loft, you're looking at, depending on the size, you're talking about 25,000 plus. Okay. They can go from 25,000 onwards to £1 million, depending on the region, the size of the loft. But if it's a small terraced property, let's say 70 square meter, 80 square meter, a terraced property, It's a small loft, probably going to cost you 25, 30,000 pounds. Yeah. Not necessarily very high spec, just basic spec. Yeah. At the same time, if you're doing a refurb into a property, it's always a good idea to speak with builders if you're not as experienced. But for example, me, I don't know, maybe Alan can do it too. We can walk into a property, probably 5 minutes later, we can work out a rough estimate. I'll probably be 90% accurate. I know that. Alan, I'm pretty sure you'd be probably close to 90% accurate because we've done it a few times. We know that, right?
Sure. Yes, I've got recent costings. Yes.
Yeah. So I can walk into a property. I can work out within 5 minutes. I don't have to pick a pen. I don't have to write anywhere anything. I can just walk in. 5 minutes later, I can work out. This comes from experience, guys, and that experience only comes from doing the deals, and that experience comes from actually dealing with builders. Unfortunately or fortunately, that is the only way there is. Okay. But with development, it's slightly more easier, because when you speak with the planners and the architects, and they give you an understanding of how much you can build, then your build cost is very similar to the numbers I gave you earlier, which is, if you're building from scratch, you're looking at about 250 a square foot these days. Okay, anything less than 250, you're pinching pennies, right? It's probably close to those numbers these days, right? And this is Greater London. If you're in Central London, like I said, and if you need high spec, you're going to need, it can go from 250 to up to, I have seen personally, up to at even 5,000 a square foot in build value. Okay. So people have spent that kind of money in Central London, while it can be done at 250 in Greater London, decent spec. And if you do the same thing up north, you might get away with 150, very minimum, very, very basic spec, nothing posh, nothing expensive, super, super cost effective stuff. Okay. So working out those numbers is a bit more easier. Let me give you a bit of a caution here. When you're developing, you can't depend on an architect, you can't depend on planner, you can't depend on your solicitor, you can't depend on anyone whatsoever. You need to have your own experience if they are doing the right work for you, because eventually you're the one responsible. Okay? I have seen solicitors making mistakes, major mistakes. I've seen architects making mistakes, major mistakes. I've seen planners making mistakes, major mistakes, not even minor. Okay? So eventually, you might ask me, so how do I make sure that I don't make a major mistake if my architect or planner has made that mistake? Get experience on board, guys. Unfortunately, there's just no other way except shadowing someone who has done it a few times and can tell you if there is a major mistake. Would I be able to point out every minor mistake? No. No one can. We will make minor mistakes along the way. We keep optimizing learning. But we want to avoid major mistakes, and those can be avoided by just shadowing some, because there's loads of technical stuff. It's impossible to learn in a theoretical format. Okay? Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Yeah. So you physically need to get some experience, be on sites, come and be with me on sites when I'm doing a project. See for yourself, hands-on, how things work behind the scene. Okay? When you get a chance to work for someone and they're paying your salary, do it. Okay? If they're not even paying your salary, go and shadow someone. There's so much to learn on sites, it's unbelievable. Okay? Like the smaller, intricate details. They say the devil is in the detail. The profits are in the detail, right? The number of times I look at a deal and I say, I'm not sure if this is going to make a profit. And when I start to dig into the smaller detail of it, and that's where I see the profits. And this applies to not just development deals or BRR deals, this applies to hotels as well as block deals, right? One of the hotels that we have, we don't do alcohol, we don't do food, it's just room only. So we are now converting one of the right lounge, which used to be a guest lounge, into a flat. And it's a big flat. It can sleep like 20 people, okay? We're putting in 4 double beds, we're going to sleep 8 or 9 people in there, and we can charge like minimum £1,000 a week for it. So even at 50% occupancy, that space is not getting used. It's going to generate us 26, 30 or £1,000 again. Okay. Imagine that as just additional pure profits coming to us. Okay. Just because you're thinking, what's the smaller, like the smaller details of the project where you're thinking, what is the best use of the space? Okay. Likewise, when we looked at one of the other flats that we took over, the ground floor was getting used as the owner's accommodation. We converted that into a guest flat. We are charging 150 a night just for that. Okay, so when someone books for a week, it's £1,000 straight. Okay, so you just have to deal with. It's almost like I said, the smaller details that when you start looking at, you start to find more profits into the deal. Again, with hotels and blocks, no need to mention that direct bookings are going to make you profit. You're paying 15% to portals, Booking.com, Expedia, Airbnb. You know, if you don't pay that 15%, that's straight profits in your pocket, right? At the moment, we're running an ad. It's £5 a day. It's doing really well. It's bringing us direct bookings. The cost to us is probably less than 5% in a paid ad. And then not just that, we are also acquiring a guest that's going to, stay for the longer time, as in they're going to keep coming back. So not even 5% when you start to look at the numbers in more detail. Okay. So, you know, like I said, the smaller things are where the profits are, the intricate details of it. So you need to dig deeper into them. Likewise, even when you look at a development deal, you look at it and think, is it worth me hiring a builder, or is it worth me doing it myself, project managing it myself? And those answers actually come to you when you actually look deeper into the deal, right? If it's a deal that's going to make the project manager or the project management company or the development building company £1 million, and it's going to take them 12 months to do it, you might start thinking, well, I'll make the £1 million. Yeah. While if the project only has maybe 100 grand in profits, and you think, well, in that, trying to save that 100 grand for myself, I can go and find another deal and make more money than that, then you give it to someone else. Does that make sense? Okay. So it all depends on, like I said, the smaller details of the project to see, are you going to manage it yourself? You're going to give it to another builder to manage it and bring a project manager in place. All of that depends on loads of different factors. I was this morning looking at the numbers and looking at some of the things that we're doing behind these hotels and this short-term management. And as long as the virtual assistants are doing a good job, and as long as the manager on ground is doing a good job, they can be very profitable, right? But if they don't do a good job, pretty much all of the profits can be wiped out. Yeah. If they do a bad job, they just literally wipe out all the profits. So how do you make sure that, you know, they're doing a good job? You still have to oversee. You know, I have a man doing the job, then I have a man double checking that job. And then third layer is me, where I'm triple checking their work. Either it is systems, either it is on ground work, quite a bit of it, wherever I can. It's either double or triple checking layers of everything that we're doing. And because it is double and triple checking, you're building over a period of time. For example, this morning, I instructed my VA to start collecting all the numbers, the phone numbers, the names and the phone numbers of guests who are booking through portals, Booking.com, Expedia, Airbnb, and then creating a CSV sheet, which will be fed into the mobile number of the short-term accommodation. And then we'll be able to create WhatsApp broadcast lists for those and send them messages regarding our promotions. Yeah. So we are taking that indirect traffic, making into a direct traffic for us, so we don't necessarily have to pay that 15% forward. Yeah. This applies to development deals, right? How are you generating your leads? How are you closing those leads? How are you nurturing some of the leads which may not close in that moment? Okay. And then you carry on forward with that. This is your lead generation in development deals as well. Okay. And we are working towards both of them. Like there is a sequence of things that we are following. In development deals, we actually work out there are 5 steps. Okay. And this applies to BRR deals as well. You first need to generate a lead. Then you go and appraise a lead. Then you go and negotiate a lead. Then you bring the money for it. And then you build it out. And then the 6th step was selling it. When I was working these 6 steps out, the first step is how to generate leads, which is what we do for you. Raise your hand. Okay. Then you do the second part, which is go and make initial contact, which is a part of the negotiation sub-step. Then you come back and we do an appraisal. Yeah. Then we go back and negotiate it together. Level step 3. Let's say we negotiate the deal, bringing the money. We do it for you if you want us to. Step 4. Then actually getting the work done on the deal. Either you do it or we do it. Step 5. Yeah. And step 6 is selling the deal, which is pretty easy. Okay. So I had worked out all of these steps to be able to get to a point where I'm thinking, okay, we've covered the first step. We want to cover next the second step in automation. Okay, remember at the moment, a lot of these appraisals are done by me. I don't have that kind of time. I will get to a point where I'll be teaching another member of staff to be able to do the appraisals. Okay, and then jump onto the third step and the 4th step, and then you create automation around it. Okay, are you with me on this? Yeah.
Yep.
There's a reason I'm sharing this, because I had worked out all of these steps to create as much automation as potentially possible to be able to get to a point where we close more deals. Okay. I mean, even at the moment, I've got so much on my table that when I'm looking at a deal, even for me to be able to appraise a deal in full, it's very, very difficult. A deal can take anywhere between 1 day up to a month, just a full-time thing. And even pulling out that time is not easy. So I need to be able to train someone to go through those planning steps, to be able to work out costs, to be able to appraise the deal in full, which is a job and a half. Okay. But we are heading towards that direction, creating more automation. Now I'm going to ask you to ask me questions. Alan, do you have any questions?
I do have a question, Jack. I've been talking with Jerry Prendergast, who is the guy from the US. He's restaurantproducers.com. We had an update session with him yesterday, and what we're looking for at the moment, I know we've got hotel leads from you in Hampshire, which we're following up, but just to explain, what we're looking for is hotels where they could benefit from a feature restaurant being added, because his value add is adding food and beverage revenue to the hotel. So if you've got a hotel and say the restaurant is mediocre, it's not performing, but it's got a good space that can be redesigned and refitted out as a character restaurant, he will actually do the design for that. He's given us various examples that he's done in the US, and well, I can share those with you, but I'm just explaining that we're looking in the Portsmouth and Southsea area, which I know we've spoken about before. I've had a look at the best hotel there, which is probably the Queen's Hotel, but that's owned by a consortium at the moment, so I'm not sure that they want to sell. But I'll be looking at other hotels in Southsea to see if there's an opportunity there to, pick up a hotel, as we've discussed, one that's underperforming, maybe get it on a lease option, but also with a view that possibly it could have space for a feature restaurant in it. So anyway, it's just an update on what discussions we had yesterday.
I understand that. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Damien, any questions?
No, so far. Thank you.
Agnes, any questions? Natasha?
I was on mute. Sorry, I was on mute. So just a little bit, not much question about what you were saying, but at the moment I am getting to commercial properties. The reason, so I've got residential property portfolio. I also have full-time job doing something else. So at the moment, I'm pivoting from the residential bit more into commercial, meaning those two commercial buildings, I will just, one is already converted, and but I am just buying to, meaning they are empty, so I'm just buying it to rent it out and hold it basically, and then I can go to bigger stuff, okay, or more, you know, commercial conversion and stuff like that. But I just would like to secure my kind of monthly, you know, income, let's say, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. Yeah. Where are you based?
So I live in London. And the commercial units I secured in Birmingham because London is, you know, it's too expensive for me. I'm not a huge, you know, so yeah.
Yeah. Where in London are you?
Old Street.
Old Street. Okay. Okay. So you are in you are in the postcode. I'm thinking this is more like either E1 or
EC1, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it EC1? Is it EC1?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
EC1.
EC1.
Yeah, correct.
EC1. Okay. All right. Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. So touch base with me, Agnes. I'd like to see what you're working on, just to be able to see if there's any more synergy there.
Base with
Just
you.
send me a WhatsApp message. Send me a WhatsApp message.
How can Alan give me your number?
I'll share the contact
Alan will
with
share
you,
it.
Agnes.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Hi, Natasha. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, Agnes.
No questions, thank you.
Natasha, any good stuff? Now, that's today's session, guys. It's not very difficult to look at a deal and say if the numbers work in your favor. Couple of calls, people you rely on, people you depend on, and some of your own experience can easily work out things. I'll add a couple of bits here as well. Let's say I walk into a commercial to resi. They're very common these days because of the PD rights, which is permanent development rights. I walk into a deal. I walk into a lead, let's say lead, not call it a deal. Let's say walk into a lead. I walk in, I've got the, let's say the floor plans. I look at the floor plans. Let's say it has, I don't know, let's say call it 2000 square meter space. Okay. 2000 square meter space. It's been split into multiple offices or whatever. I'm talking about the overall total area, the total internal area, which includes all the floors. Let's say it's 2000 square meter. Then I start looking at, because does it come under PD rights or not? Which is, again, not very difficult to look at. You could be speaking with the local planner and work this out very quickly. If you need a full planning application or just a partial application, 1,000 square meter, look at how much space does a one bedroom need. Let's say a one bedroom can be 60 square meter. A two bedroom can be 70, 75 square meter. A three bedroom can be like a 90, 100 square meter. Can you now divide those numbers with the space that you have? Yeah? Raise your hand if you, what I just did. Yeah? It's just very simple. Even if you're doing three bedroom, don't work out in your mind as in, 1, 2, 3 bed. Read the accompanying notes that come with the local policy to what is it that they want more. Remember, I started the session with demand. In the accompanying notes of the local policy, they actually write what kind of flats do they need. Do they need more one bed flats, two bed flats, three bed flats? If they need one more and two bed flats, don't go for three bed flats. Okay? Go from what's in demand, what is needed in the local region. So if they say we only need two bed flats, then just work out two bed flats. Two bed flats are about 75 square meter. Okay? Like I said, a lot of this comes from just doing, like physically doing the deals and the experience. But a two bedroom flat is about 75, 80 square meter in the region. Any bigger than this, not a good use of space. Any smaller than this, again, not necessarily very good amenity feeling of the flat. I have walked into flats which are like 55 square meter, and they're very tiny. Like they're super tiny. Okay, so you wanna give the little bit of extra space for it to be attractive for someone to buy. Okay, But at the same time, you can easily work out these things. Same with development deals. You speak with the local planner, you say, well, how much space, what can we build here? They give you an indication, you work out the how much you can build, and then you say, okay, what's in demand, and what can we get here? Either we get townhouses or we get flats or whatever. It's down to your experience and down to speaking with the local planner, and then down to understanding how big of a space a flat needs to be able to work out things. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, like I said, you just have to, this stuff, I think is very, very difficult if you're doing it the first time. But once you do it at 1 or 2 times, it does become a lot more easier, Okay? Yeah, raise your hand if you know what I'm saying and you have got the basic gist of this. Yeah, good stuff, guys. Have an absolutely amazing day, and I'll see you all next week.
Have a great
also,
weekend.
Don't forget, Shadow Day, 2nd September. Send me a message if you're coming, okay?
Okay. Cheers, Jack.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.